Hey guys, this is Jabroni, and today I want to give you a video on the YetiBoBat attack using Super Wallbreakers and a Yeti-Blimp. And so back in the days of Town Hall 11 and Town Hall 12, many attackers did P.E.K.K.A.BoBat, and it was a very successful 3-star strategy. But then all of a sudden Town Hall 13 came, and the Town Hall 13 introduced the scatter shots. And the scatter shots made it much more difficult for bats to be successful since they can take out an entire group of bats at one shot. And so you had wizard towers that were enemies to bats, you had multi-infernos that were enemies to bats, but now with scatter shots, it just made it very, very difficult. But now that so many players in the game are doing 2 to 3 single target infernos, along with some expos being set to ground, which makes it nicer because now they're not picking off the bats, what has opened up is the ability to now bring bats back to Town Hall 13. Another thing that helps is the Yeti-Blimp, giving you lots of flexibility and also super Wallbreakers. And so let me go ahead and show you here the troop composition that I use. You'll see I use 3 super Wallbreakers. And with the addition of the Yeti-Blimp, you're not limited to just using a wall wrecker to get your kill squad to the town hall. Now with the super Wallbreakers and the Yeti-Blimp, you have greater flexibility. One thing I want to mention is that even though you'll see here my spells are having a total of 2 rage spells, 3 freeze, 5 bat spells, and 1 poison, I always like to bring that poison spell for the enemy CC. But here's what I want to point out. If you know ahead of time that the enemy CC has 3 ice golems, like maybe it's a second attack in war or something like that, then you really don't probably need that poison spell, and you could instead bring a 4th freeze spell, which would then help with making the bats stay alive. And so the addition of the Yeti-Blimp into the game allows you to have the ability to take down the town hall using the warden's ability to keep the blimp alive, so that way your kill squad doesn't have to necessarily be responsible for taking down the town hall. So that's one possible use of the Yeti-Blimp. However, that is not the only possible use. You could also use the Yeti-Blimp to take down key defenses, possibly a scatter shot, possibly the enemy eagle artillery, possibly a multi-inferno. Sometimes you're going to want to use a rage, like if you're taking down the town hall with the Yeti-Blimp, you definitely want to use the rage. But having said that, sometimes you're going to decide that the rage spell is not going to give you big bang for your buck. And so you might not use a rage spell for the Yeti-Blimp, especially if it's not taking down the town hall. You might use both rage spells instead for your kill squad and not using one of those rage spells on the Yeti-Blimp. The goal of your kill squad is to do a few different things here. They need to get and take down the enemy CC troops. They also need to hopefully take down both of the scatter shots. And if the blimp is not going to take down the town hall, then you have to make sure your kill squad takes down the town hall. It's also ideal if your kill squad can take down the enemy queen, the enemy royal champion, although sometimes those things are not going to be possible. It's also ideal to take down the eagle artillery as soon as possible. Those are the main goals of your kill squad. And then you have to decide what you're going to do with your royal champion. If she can take down a multi-target inferno, that obviously would be ideal. Other times, though, you can use her to distract a wizard tower, so that way your bats are able to stay alive in that location without having to use a freeze spell. Other times you might use her to maybe distract a scatter shot. Now that's a little bit less ideal because she can definitely die from the scatter shot. But those are usually the ways that you use the royal champion with your attack. The other possible things you could do is use the royal champion to take down defenses on the back end that your kill squad's not going to get to. Sometimes she can be used to take down defenses adjacent to the kill squad, allowing your troops in the kill squad to stay going directly towards the middle. And then obviously a main part of this attack is the bat spells and freezing things that could wipe out your bats all at one shot. If your kill squad does not take down both scatter shots, then you have to freeze the scatter shot that is going to shoot down your bats. And then the other things that you're going to have to possibly freeze, if there's a multi-target inferno, that can wipe out your bats very quickly. And so you're going to have to freeze that as well. Wizard towers can take out your bats, so that's obviously something you have to freeze if it's not being distracted by the Royal Champion. If you can freeze multiple defenses at the same time, like you saw here with the Wizard Tower and the multi-inferno, then that obviously is an ideal situation. The one other thing you might want to consider using a free spell on, believe it or not, is Expos. If an Expo or two are shooting down your bats continuously, that can make your bats die off very quickly, which can then prevent them from staying alive through the remainder of your attack. Lastly, you need to make sure you use wizards to clean up. The reason why I bring 4 wizards, I use 3 of them for cleanup, and then I sometimes use the other 1 wizard to help my Barb King out, or possibly help out my Warden with creating the funnel. The baby dragon also helps with the creation of the funnel. The reason that I bring the 2 balloons, 1 balloon is for a test balloon before I put down the healers. The other balloon is normally a test balloon that I use before I put down the blimp, trying to prevent any seeking air mines from shooting down your healers early or shooting down your blimp early. I traditionally in Legends League will use 7 bowlers with my 6 Yetis. However, you might not want to use bowlers depending on the base design. Sometimes I think it might be helpful to switch out those bowlers and maybe add in 2 P.E.K.K.A.s. Now, to do that, you would also have to drop one of the Yetis and make it 5 Yetis instead of 6. But just to let you know, this is not a troop composition that is set in stone. You can tweak it as needed depending on the base design, especially if you're planning an attack in war. And so how does this attack actually start off? I normally start by using my Grand Warden to set the funnel. I start with it because he sometimes takes a long time to take down structures. I like to use a Grand Warden walk instead of a Queen walk because it's easier to control him joining with the kill squad and making sure your kill squad goes to where you want it to go. Whereas with the Queen walk, you don't always know which way she's going to go after she shoots down the first few buildings that are in front of her. I do not want the Warden to be engaging the enemy clan castle troops. I do not want him to be engaging an enemy hero like a queen or a king or a royal champion. I do not want him to be engaging a single target inferno. I also don't want him engaging a scatter shot. I used the Barb King in the other corner. Unfortunately, on this attack, the Barb King got shot down by a single target inferno, so that was not necessarily the greatest plan on my part. And then from there, you bring your Yeti and your queen and your bowlers, and then I stagger my Super Wallbreakers, usually allowing 1 to 3 seconds in between deployment to try to open up the base as best as I can. So let's go ahead and show you 3 different attacks that I was able to make successful in getting a 3-star using the YetiBoBat strategy. On this one, you'll notice we have an isolated town hall building, kind of all by itself with this dead space around it. And so this is an attack where when I was planning for the 30 seconds before I started my attack, I decided I wanted to use the Yeti-Blimp to take down that town hall. Another thing I noticed with planning is that this queen could possibly shoot down my warden if I'm not careful. And the clan castle was near the edge, so I waited a little bit before I put down the Barb King. I didn't want the Barb King to die and then the enemy clan castle troops to go towards the warden. You'll see at this point I'm already starting to be a little worried that the warden is going to get in the radius of the queen, so I deployed my Yeti right next to the Grand Warden, and whenever you do that, that will get the Grand Warden to stop shooting whatever he was shooting and to then join forces along with your kill squad. On this attack, I used the Royal Champion to try to help to take down the defenses, to kind of force my kill squad to go and stay in the middle. That's not usually an ideal way of using the Warden, of using the Royal Champion, but on this attack, that's what I chose to do. And then I delay my Blimp and my Grand Warden's ability to try to keep the Blimp alive to make it towards the Town Hall. Now, you'll see, and this is very common with these type of isolated town hall base designs where there's a tornado trap. Fortunately, my blimp was able to still make it to the town hall with that tornado trap being set off. You have to use a rage spell if you're going to use the Yeti-Blimp to take down the town hall. And then from here, I start bringing my bats. I have to freeze the wizard tower, and I have to freeze the other wizard tower. Thankfully, all 4 of the expos were set to ground, so I didn't have to worry about the expos shooting down the bats. Now, I will say, this attack could have gone a little bit better. I used my second freeze spell a little bit too early, and so the third freeze spell, although it did, freeze that wizard tower, it didn't keep it frozen long enough for my bats to stay alive. So my bats do get shot down. But thankfully, since that wizard tower is basically the only defense remaining, and I had enough bowlers and Yetis that stayed alive, this attack ended up being successful for the 3-star. You see how you also use the wizards to help with cleanup, and boom, this ended up working to be a 3-star attack. And so then the next attack I want to show you is on a base where something very unique happened. I saw that the clan castle covered the town hall. Now that's not unique, but I realized this air defense down here, if I'd have to be extremely careful for it not to shoot any healers. And so I was like, well, that's not a great idea to put my warden with healers there because, the air defense could shoot down the healers. But the wizard tower has limited range, and the double cannon has limited range compared to a regular cannon. And with these archer towers being set back the way they were, I was able, and this is like the only time I've ever done this, but I was able to use the warden without the healers to take down a bunch of structures. Over here, I used the Barb King to start the other corner of my funnel. Now, I used a Super Wallbreaker. I tried to force my king to, after it took down the elixir storage, to take down this barracks, but unfortunately he didn't go that way. And so this Super Wallbreaker in that corner was pretty much a waste. So I had to use a wizard here. Fortunately, this cannon was distracted by that Barb King and was also out of range of where this wizard was. And so this wizard actually got decent value. I tried to use a baby dragon over here to help out my warden with creating the funnel. I did not use a test balloon because I didn't want to lure the clan castle troops too early and then end up targeting my warden. So again, this was a very unique situation, the way that this all worked out. Once my funnel was basically created, I put down the Yetis and the bowlers in between. And then obviously from here, I can use my rage spells and the warden's ability. Now, I think full disclosure, I did not really plan what I was going to use my blimp for. Maybe this is one of those attacks where a siege barracks could have been a better choice because the siege barracks would have given me an extra P.E.K.K.A. and a bunch of wizards behind. Maybe that would have been a better choice in this base. I'm not entirely sure. But what I ended up choosing to do is I brought the blimp over here. I think maybe I was a little worried that the scatter shot wasn't going to go down. So I brought the blimp. I also brought the royal champion. And I don't know if using the rage spell there was the best choice. I don't really know if I got as much bang for my buck there. Maybe it would have been better to use the rage spell over here with my kill squad, the second rage spell. But sometimes when you're in the middle of a Legends League attack, you're just, trying to do the best you can with the limited amount of planning that you have. From here, I'm trying to decide where do I want to bring my bats. One thing you need to make sure you understand is that your bats need to have a predictable path to hit the defenses that they're going to hit. This is very similar to hog attacks and pretty much any kind of attack that you're ever going to do. You want to have a predictable path for your troops, and that is also true with bat spells. Since all these buildings here were taken down by the blimp and the royal champion, I was thinking that I could bring my bats towards this archer tower, and I was hoping then that the bats would then go to the multi-target inferno and the eagle. However, one thing I overlooked is that after those bats took down the first archer tower, that they could possibly go to the next closest building, which might be this archer tower. And so that's actually what ends up happening here, which means I had to use my free spell more times on the multi-target inferno than I had hoped for. So as I said, I wanted to have a predictable path for my bats. Multi-target Infernos have a pretty decent range, so I had to freeze it early. And then at this point, I'm like, well, maybe I should try to freeze the multi-target Inferno and the Eagle at the same time. Since the bats, half of them went up to the Archer Tower up here at 1 o'clock, I had to use all 3 of my freeze spells on the multi-target Inferno. But since that was the only splash damage that my bats had to deal with, that is why this attack ended up being successful for a 3-star. And guys, that's pretty much the type of base where this attack can work, where your kill squad can take down almost all the splash damage structures, the wizard towers, the multi-target Inferno, the scatter shots on their own. And then you only have like 1 or maybe 2 splash damage that you have to end up freezing or distracting with your Royal Champion to keep the bats alive. And then the last attack I want to show you is on an internet base that is starting to definitely become a lot more popular, where you have like this kind of like, I don't know, is that some kind of like jet there at the bottom? And then the 3 circles that are going through the middle, each having an Inferno Tower inside with the Eagle above. And so what I tried to do on this attack is I used both of my test balloons to try to take up any seeking air mine, and I brought the blimp towards the Eagle. Now, I was not thinking this was going to work, but I went with the risk anyway. Fortunately, it did. I used a rage spell. The Eagle artillery has more hit points than what other defenses do, so I wanted to use the rage spell to make sure the Yeti-Blimp took it down. But furthermore, I saw there were 3 wizard towers here, and so this is why I thought it was worth bringing the rage spell to try to get as much bang for my buck as I can from that Yeti-Blimp. Unfortunately, they only took out 1 of the wizard towers, not the other 2. If they would have gone to the left instead of to the right, then maybe I could have got down 2 wizard towers and not just 1. From here, I'm using my Warden to start creating the funnel over here on the right corner. And then this is one of those southern teaser bases that have all 3 enemy heroes and 2 scatter shots and the town hall and the enemy clan castle all in the same corner. So I waited before I put down my Barb King, and I wanted the Barb King, my Barb King, to take down the enemy queen, the enemy Barb King. I knew at that point he would probably die. So you'll see I used the poison spell, and what I was trying to do, although it didn't end up working the way I had hoped, is that I was trying to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I was trying to poison the enemy king, the enemy queen, but then also the enemy clan castle troops. Unfortunately, that doesn't necessarily happen, as you're going to see. You'll see I brought a wizard behind my Barb King and a baby dragon. I'm trying to help out my Barb King as best as I can. He's also trying to create the other part of the funnel. That doesn't work out as well because of all these Teslas that pop up, but that's what I ended up doing. Kill squad comes in between, the Yetis, the bowlers, the staggered Super Wallbreakers. I'm using my Warden's ability. Unfortunately, the Ice Golems freeze my kill squad, and so I do think I lost, I lost like some bowlers there because my Warden's ability was a little bit too early, so that was quite unfortunate. At this point, I'm trying to figure out, once again, where am I going to use my Royal Champion and where am I going to use my bats. What I decided on doing is I brought my Royal Champion up here from 12 o'clock to distract this wizard tower and hopefully to take it down. Since I think there was only an archer tower that was remaining up there that was north of the wizard tower, my Royal Champion was able to take down this wizard tower before she ended up dying. And I brought the bats in a way that I had a predictable path for which way they would go. And if you're a little confused what I mean by a predictable path, since my blimp took down the defenses here and my Warden took down the defenses and the structures here, bringing my bats over here from 3 o'clock allows them to have a predictable path to get to the other defenses that are remaining. And so you'll see it here in action. I was able to freeze the Wizard Tower and the Expo at the same time because, again, Expos that are pointing up to the air can shoot down your bats. Unfortunately, I had to use all 3 of my free spells at that location. But since my Royal Champion was able to take down not just one Wizard Tower here, she actually was able to take down the one that was to the top left of this middle single target Inferno. Since that occurred, my bats were able to freely take out the other single target Inferno. Now, I'm not going to lie. If these were multi-target Infernos, this attack would not have worked because there would have been too much stuff to freeze that would have, shot down my bats, and this wouldn't have worked. But since the bats were able to take down 2 single target Infernos, and I had enough Yetis and my queen that had stayed alive, you'll see my queen is able to shoot down through the wall and the skeletons, and while that single target Inferno is locked on one of the Yetis, my queen is able to sneak in and shoot down the last single target Inferno. And then from there wasn't like any defenses remaining other than one wizard tower, and that's why this was a successful attack. Now, I thought about showing you guys some fails, but this attack is already going, sorry, not this attack. This video is already going pretty long. So let me just quickly explain. The bases that this does not work on are bases where your kill squad is not able to get down as many splash damage defenses as possible. And so this is not always going to work. In fact, full disclosure, you'll see I am not getting 3 stars every single time. This is not an OP attack. There is no such thing as an OP attack. In fact, some of these ended up being 1 stars. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. We'll see you next time.